It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by Ray White, the largest real estate and property group in Australasia.
And welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Podcast, available on iHeartRadio and also Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. Well, it's a Wednesday morning, the 4th of May for 2022, and coming up, we're going to be talking with Fabian Sanelli from Melbourne, taking a look at the property market and auctions there. And if you're travelling overseas, you may be able to cast a pre-vote prior to departure. I'm just realising how funny that sounds if you're travelling overseas. I mean, it's something we just haven't been able to say for the last couple of years, but it's here and available for us to head off overseas. Early voting centres open up on the 9th of May, which is only 5 days away as we get closer and closer to Election Day coming up on May 21.
It's the Main Centre forecast with propertybuyer.com.au.
Around Australia we go. Firstly to Sydney, expecting a mainly fine day with a little bit of rain later in the day and a high of 25 degrees. Melbourne, it's going to be damp with showers and a high of 17. Brisbane, a mostly fine one with 27 degrees. And in Perth, expecting sunshine and a high of 23.
If you've got a question that needs answering, you can email us at myrealestatepodcast@gmail.com.
Well, you may have seen a special 60-minute interview with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who at the end of the interview had a special message for Australia. He said his country would never forget the support Australia offered in his country's hour of need.
We're thankful to Australian people that you helped us already, and it's true, but we need more. It's also true. I'm sorry, I'm the president of war country, the country which is in war, and with such friends like you, with such respect friends. Maybe my English is not good. I'm sorry, dear Australian people. I'm very sorry, but I think you understand my feelings too. That is the main thing. You have to know that Ukraine will always remember. It will be written in our historical books about your help. Thanks a lot.
Wow, everything about Zelensky is from the heart. It's genuine. He wears his heart on his sleeve, but also knows how to be strong to fight for Ukraine's freedom.
We feature market updates, interviews and trends. It's your real estate podcast for breakfast.
What is happening in Melbourne with the slowdown? Are we in a limbo auction market there? Well, let's find out. And welcome to the podcast, Fabian Sanelli, Managing Director and Auctioneer from EYS Auctions. Good morning, Fabian. Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast.
Hi, Craig. How are you going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on the show. And this is a new podcast series. It's called Melbourne Property and Auctions, and we're going to get to speak every couple of weeks. So welcome to you as a regular contributor.
Thank you. Looking very much forward to giving my insights.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to just get your angles on the Melbourne market. And as I mentioned earlier, the election is coming up. You might be the best person to ask from Melbourne about whether there is any buyer hesitancy, do you think, from people attending auctions and getting bidding with their arms going up in the air before the election? Or do you think that there's going to be some people just sort of sitting on the fence?
Yeah, look, I'm definitely seeing some hesitancy, Craig. I think, auctions are driven by social proof, and if buyers hold back, everyone else just follows. So that hesitancy trend is starting to filter through the buyer's mentality. They're starting to think potentially they might be able to buy below market value. I think that's one reason, Craig. And another is over the last 60 days, there has been obviously an explosion of stock hitting the market. So the FOMO factor has dropped off. When buyers suddenly have more choice, they're less connected to the property because they have backup options. That results in less bidders at auctions. And as an auctioneer, you can see it with your own eyes that buyers are either holding back or getting told to. It's definitely harder to get the auction moving nowadays as well. Opening vendor bids are more common than not. And I also have noticed that bidders are really trying to break increments down early on to try and slow the trajectory of the auction. And usually when the market starts shifting to more buyer control, we would refer to that as a buyer's market.
So is it fair to sort of call it a bit of a limbo auction market?
Well, I think the reason why it's a limbo auction market, I think, because there's a bit of uncertainty at the moment with the election coming up. Buyers aren't sure what's going to happen. They're not sure at what rate the interest rates will rise to. So they're definitely pulling back. And I think the reason why auctions go so well in a hot market is because there's certainty. When buyers know that there's rates that they can lock in at a certain figure, I feel it gives buyers a lot more confidence to purchase at auction and even register to bid. So I think we're in that funny phase right now where the next couple of weeks are going to be interesting, where there's not a great deal of aggression at auctions, but I feel after the election, when there's certainty, when whoever gets elected and wins, and there's a clarity on if there's new grants to come in place or interest rates, whatever it might be, then you're going to start seeing buyers come back with a sense of aggression back in the marketplace.
And the RBA, of course, has that imminent cash rate rise. The interest rate rise will be interesting to see what happens in different states. What is your thinking there in Melbourne, Fabian, for the type of impact which may come into the market as a result of any rises?
I genuinely believe that interest rates are going to have a big impact on the market. Now, obviously, economists can forecast a more accurate prediction, but my logic is the market can't keep increasing at this rate forever. Now, the usual real estate cycle time frame would suggest it's now time for an adjustment. So you see, Craig, real estate markets are driven by confidence. The market has performed so well for a number of years now, and low interest rates have been a huge factor in that. Buyers remained confident and they were enticed to purchase. Now, on the flip side, if buyers lose confidence in their borrowing capacity or ability to meet mortgage repayments, then yes, the market will suffer. However, subsequently also opens up the doors to first home buyers to enter the market from potential fire sales or distressed sellers, and also downsizers. So I think we can expect the market to drop 10 to 15% by the end of the year. And I say that because from September thereabouts last year, when we experienced that post-pandemic boom market, which was arguably the best we've seen in our history, the market jumped up close to 30% in some parts of Metro Melbourne. So it only makes sense for a correction to be manifested.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see just how right you are with that prediction. Now, if somebody is looking to buy and gets along to an auction, the market is changing. It has changed. Is there a bidding strategy that people could use for a lower bidder market?
Really good question. Look, well, firstly, the buyer prepared to spend the most is always going to prevail. Let's put that out there first and foremost. But more commonly than not, in this market, buyers hold back. So to anyone listening out there that potentially could be looking to purchase at auctions, don't do what your buyers are doing or your competitors are doing. Show enormous strength and aggression. It's not often we see aggressive buyers in this market right now, and it can really unsettle the competition, seeing something they aren't used to. I think a strong opening bid always puts you in a great position and can be a momentum killer at the auction. Maybe somewhere in the top half of the advertised price range is a great starting point. Close to 80% of purchasers are the first bidders at the auction, Craig. So take that stat into your next auction. Secondly, be quick to bid over your competitors and do so loudly and proudly. Don't be afraid to mix up the increments as well. So, for example, if someone bids 10K, maybe bid 2,500 instantly after. Slowing the auction down and making your competitors rethink their own strategy can only help. And finally, making buyers think that your pockets are deeper is going to throw them off. Auctions are like poker, Craig. Make your competitors think you hold the upper hand, especially in a market where it's very buyer and price sensitive.
And Fabian, just coming back to that point about 15%, I was talking with Eliza from CoreLogic, and that 15% market correction, if that is the case, it comes back to similar levels back to March of 2021. So, it's not as bad as what some people may predict.
It's definitely not as bad as what some people predict. See, if it's going to come back 15% and there were some parts of Metro Melbourne that jumped up close to 30%, well, we're still better off 15% in a market pre-first quarter of 2021. So the reality is it's still going to be a good market if we experience that 15% decline from where we are now. So I think that's the beauty about what we experienced post-pandemic boom, because the market jumped up so much. A correction, it's an adjustment in the marketplace to allow more buyers to re-enter the market, but sellers and vendors should not think to themselves that they're losing a lot of growth on their property, because really that's probably where the market should actually sit anyway. I think it's just a more realistic outcome on where the market sits currently at this point of time.
Hey, some great words there, and it's all local coming out of Melbourne this morning. Thanks, Fabian. Looking forward to our chat in a couple of weeks' time. Have yourself a great Wednesday.
Thanks, Craig. You too. Take care.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.